What's up, Bitcoin Radio? It's your man, Joe Blackburn, and you're listening to WBTC, where Bitcoin lives. People, today is going to be fun because I'm sitting here with Jim Scampoli. Say hello, Jim.
Hey, what's up? It's me, Jim Scampoli.
Jim is the creative director for Bitcoin Radio. And me and Jim, among others, we'd all had conversations about maybe like having some fun with the show at some point. And, we thought, why not? I mean, it was after the McAfee interview, it was a big one for us. Obviously, it's done well on the charts. And we are the types of people that want to relate, and we want to be, we don't ever want to be too big for ourselves. Like, I think it's really important to me specifically that, that the tone and the nature in which Bitcoin Radio began is maintained. And that is because I love talking about Bitcoin. I love talking about the ideology, and I like talking about this with regular people. I want to be the bridge. I want people to see me as a bridge. And so, Jim was like, Joe, let me interview you, let me host the show. I was like, all right, Jim, it's your show, man. In fact, Jim, right now, it's actually apparently, from everything I've been told, it's your show as of now. So I should just stop talking. What's up, Jim? It's your show.
Well, I stepped into the meeting after the McAfee interview and I said, all right, well, you got McAfee. You caught a whale. You got a great big name in crypto. Let's follow it up with a complete unknown. Me. Put me on
Absolutely.
Put me on the show, I said. And then I was like, because I'm editing it. So let's do it. But then I also wanted to flip the script because you're not going to interview me. I should interview Joe because here we are. We're 10 episodes in. Let's get a little bit into who Joe is, what his thoughts are on the space, and, maybe give a noob's perspective because I know, of course, we got a lot of, whether it be traders or holders out there, but, there are new people coming in to crypto all the time. Much like myself, I've only been kind of picking up things here and there the past 6 to 8 weeks. So I want to learn. I think you can all learn. Let's get down to it.
Yeah, and I also think, and for the record, to people, just a little intro and background on Jim is Jim. It's not like this is brand new to him. Like I said, he's the creative director. It's like he's been doing things like this for a very long time, probably close to a decade, right, Jim?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've been too long, I guess, if you'd ask me.
And so you'll know, you'll be able to tell. I mean, he does a great job in all of this, and he's also he's got a show. It's called Jim and Them, and you can plug that. Jim, real quick, how do people find you on Jim and Them?
Well, you can go to jimandthem.com. I host a pop culture entertainment comedy show. Be wary. Sometimes we don't. We get a little blue sometimes. We do curse. So just keep that in mind. But I think it's a very funny, entertaining show, if I don't say so myself.
No, and I've been fortunate or unfortunate at times to have to listen to it, but I've enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun, and I do encourage anybody who, especially today after you get a chance to know Jim a little bit, you might want to be interested in how he does his shows. They're very different than Bitcoin Radio, though. That's no doubt. But anyways, all right, it's your show from here on out, Jim. I'm going to shut up.
Now, for those that don't know, Joe Blackburn is... he's one of the guys when it comes to social media, when it comes to the crypto universe, Bitcoin especially. You got my man over here. Now, I know most people out there like Bitcoin. That's that thing that I heard about where you can make a lot of money. Isn't that like Ripple, they say? Isn't that like Ethereum, they say? No, it's Bitcoin, my dude. They're all crypto. We're going to learn about it. Joe Blackburn, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Cheer. What's up, dude? Yeah, man. Thanks for the intro. And just to make sure we're clear, I'm a pretty humble guy when it comes to this stuff. But more importantly, I love crypto and I love Bitcoin because it's done a lot for me. But I don't pretend to know everything either. And I hate to preface things that way, but it's the truth, But nevertheless, yeah, man. So my name is Joe. I come from the southeast corner of the United States. I've been in cryptocurrency and blockchain Bitcoin space since about the end of 2013. Got a little unlucky initially. Back then, Bitcoin was only $1,000. But right after I bought it, guess what? We had this drastic and tumultuous drop down to $250. I'll never forget it. I was the biggest idiot in the world, right? But ever since then, I was able to, I just believed in it still. I didn't tell my wife that we lost $750. I just kept moving along. And would add $5, $10 at a time. Of course, Bitcoin was cheaper back then, but and then I forgot about it for a couple years, right? Fortunately, I got an iPhone again, a new iPhone a few years later, as noted. And you know how the iCloud shows you that little cloud. I don't know if you even have an iPhone, Jim, but
I do.
Yeah. So that's right. That's right. Because we got that blue. We're them blue boys.
Absolutely, Team Blue.
That's right. Whenever I see like a non-blue text message, I'm like, who is this fool? Right?
We all do. We all do that. We won't. We may not all admit it, but we definitely all do that.
I'm like, man, why don't you have an iPhone? Anyways, all you Samsung haters can come at me later. But anyways, just to kind of get to the point here is that, I was able to really start taking it seriously. Mid 2016, I really bought into, not like physically bought in, but I really mentally, I guess you could say, bought into the space and what I thought Bitcoin, what I believed in. And then we just kind of took it from there.
Well, see, like, here's the difference between me and you, my man, Joe Blackburn. I feel like I had my first brushes with Bitcoin like around the same time. I think it was, maybe it was maybe it was even before you, but like maybe it was 2012 or 2013 through a little avenue I like to call the Silk Road. Now, I know all the Bitcoin novices out there, when they hear Bitcoin, they think of two things: crime, and they think of like pyramid schemes or Ponzi schemes. Ponzi schemes. Now, because at the time, my brother would use the Silk Road to order marijuana off the internet. Now, I mean, I guess
crazy to think about.
The statute of limitations I feel are up. Plus, maybe it's just a story I'm making up. So,
that's right. Completely made up.
Knocking at my door.
Just kidding.
Now, I only delved into it at the time to buy people's Hulu logins and Netflix logins. Like, this is how small-minded, stupid I am. Because I'm like, oh, you use this thing called Bitcoin, but you use like fractions of it. Because at the time, I remember Bitcoin was like $800, I think. And I was like, ooh, who would ever spend $800? In my mind, I'm like, who the fuck would ever spend $800 on a Bitcoin? I'm buying someone's Netflix login. I'm participating in crime. Don't worry.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Hold on. So, like, you were using Bitcoin just so you didn't have to subscribe to a Netflix account? It's like $6 back then.
Well, it was like Netflix, Hulu.
I mean, how much Bitcoin were you sitting? It probably cost as much as transaction fees.
Dude, I'd have to see if I can find my login. I would love to look up what I had purchased at the time, like what it was worth now.
Because I don't know if you're telling me the whole truth, because you just were buying Netflix logins. I mean, it's not like they're $20. They're not $20 today.
Well, here's what it was. It was Netflix, Hulu. I think. Oh, it was also NFL.
Sunday Ticket.
Yes, but there's an international version. So it was like I had a VPN, and in Europe you could get like a Game Pass that was like Sunday Ticket, but obviously DirecTV has the stranglehold. So that was one of them as well. So it was just basically logins, because I was too afraid to, like, my brother was buying weed and getting it shipped through the mail, and like I'm like, oh, that's bad news. I'm way too afraid of that. But yeah, in my mind, I was like, holy shit, $800 for one fake thing. I don't know about that, my guy. And then I only did that for a little while. Then fast forward like 3 years later, when all you're hearing about on the news is Bitcoin, as it's like $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. And then I'm experiencing FOMO, if I could use some insider language. Well, I guess I wasn't really experiencing FOMO because I didn't try to buy in, because I kind of understood like the game was over. I think I bought a little Ripple because I was like, oh, Ripple's the next one.
Yeah,
of course it wasn't.
But it had its moments, though. I mean, it went. Yeah. There was some. It went. Ripple made a lot of people a lot of money at one point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I heard a little bit about Ripple and Ethereum, but I mean, I guess I was kind of the classic Mark that, like, a lot of these Bitcoin maximalists, is that what they're called? Maximalists?
Correct.
Because I've been hearing you use that term a lot, and I'm like, oh, okay. So from my understanding, that's someone that kind of puts Bitcoin above all else, correct?
I kind of use my own definition for it, because I think the definition has shifted a little bit. But yeah, you're pretty much spot on. It's essentially a true maximalist thinks that there shouldn't even be another coin, right? Yeah. I mean, that's like the extreme. I mean, that's the original Bitcoin maximalist, which has evolved, because back when Bitcoin maximalism first came into to be an actual word, there wasn't all these altcoins. There was like a few, right?
Yes.
But that is now shifted to where Bitcoin maximalism essentially, and the maximalists, the true maximalists won't agree with this, but the majority of the crypto world will, and that is that you see Bitcoin as like the daddy. Like it doesn't go any further without it. Okay.
I mean, I guess ideally the end game would be one coin to rule them all, whether it be Bitcoin or if you love something else, like has to be kind of the end goal, correct?
It's kind of weird to say that because that's where we were at one point, right?
Yeah.
We started with just one, and we've evolved into a economy. I don't believe that's necessarily true, Jim, but I understand why you would ask that. Especially, I know that you're someone who owns crypto, who probably believes in it. I mean, we've talked enough where I believe that you're a fan, but you just don't have the time to really put into it. So, because I understand why you asked that question, I'm going to shape it like this. The answer to that is that I don't think that every crypto needs to go away, but I think a lot of them will die off, right? I mean, I think it's a healthy market it's a capitalistic market. It's a free market. You either going to survive because you're doing things right and people will need you, or you will die off, right? That's the nature in which a free market it lives, because of the idea that there was this gold rush in 2017. It got very perverted, the idea of what crypto and blockchain was, and that I'd almost say that people just assumed it was all going to make us rich, and it did make a lot of people rich. But to answer your question, I don't personally believe that no other coin or no other token should ever exist. That's not necessarily my stance.
Okay. Well, yeah, but kind of what I was saying is like, I guess I was kind of ideally like, in a weird way, whether it be that you're into crypto because you believe in the freedom and the potential that's there, or you want to make money. And I think a lot of people are in it for both. I think initially I was that ideal mark. Like, you kind of want a person to be a mark at first, where they're just hearing the rumblings, they're seeing the clickbait headlines about all this money you can make. Sure. So they start buying in, but by necessity, them buying in, that's helping everything because now the price is going up. Because even like I do work as tech support, and I remember at the time I would have people connecting to me because they're trying to set up their like Bitcoin mining computer and they don't know anything. And I barely know anything, but I know more than them, and I know they're kind of dumb. And I'm just seeing that people are like, they're having people remote into their computer to help them set up their crypto account. I'm like, security wise, you're out of your mind. Like, what are you doing? Like,
so dangerous.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about, especially early on in the crypto community. First off, Bitcoin wasn't really worth that much money, right? And so you didn't have a lot of people, who had tons and tons of Bitcoin, who would really, be at risk that way. I mean, the first amount of Bitcoin I ever bought was through PayPal transaction from a stranger on the internet, Yeah. So, I mean, I can relate to that. Anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. That's great. Because like, I don't know if this has gone over, if you've gone over this or not, or if this is a known thing, but like, what was the perfect storm that caused this big run? Was it just the quote bulls at the time in 2017 decided they were going to start pumping money into crypto, or was it just a chain reaction of events just kicked everything into motion?
Looking back on it, I was still relatively learning in 2016, right? Ethereum had just been created. I don't even remember if it was the end of 2015. I think it was like November 2015 ish. I mean, and these dates could be wrong, but when the Ethereum ICO completed and it went into existence, and they minted and the Ethereum network was live, Ethereum really was. I mean, like, we had other altcoins. Keep that in mind: Litecoin, Doge, among others. Bitcoin Dark, which turned into, eventually, I think it turned into Dash, or that could be Doge. Either way, there was just several different coins early on in the early days that started to exist, right? And they were forks of Bitcoin, meaning, they copied and pretty much just copied and pasted, not cut and paste, but copy and pasted the Bitcoin blockchain. All right, that's the easiest way to explain it. I'm not a tech guy anyway, so for me to explain the intricacies of it would be a fail. But sure. To copy and paste, not cut and paste, but copy and paste the blockchain, maybe make a few little tweaks, add a few sentences in between, make it your own, and then have maybe what they would consider some improvements. That was all that existed, though, back then, right? When Ethereum came along, it opened up this crowdfunding style of raising money. I mean, we'd never seen anything like it. So there was no regulation. I mean, minimal at least, would be the best way to say it. And the expectations were not even there either. What is this going to go up? Maybe, who knows? Well, when Ethereum, I remember the first time I even purchased Ethereum, it was $6. And I was late to the party. I could not find a single podcast. I couldn't find but 2 or 3 decent YouTube videos that could explain to me. And I was calling it Ethereum. I remember this. Ethereum. All right. Ethereum. What is this Ethereum? You know, I'm sitting there like asking Siri, like, what's Ethereum? You know, and nobody could tell me anything, and I couldn't really get any honest answers. And you know, everything that I was hearing was, you know, about DAO and about things that I didn't understand. You know, I just wanted to know if the freaking thing was going to go up. You know, and so when I first bought at 6, within a couple of days, it had already gone up to 8. And keep in mind, this is a year and a half after the ICO. It's not like Ethereum had just come onto the scene or anything, but it did just get on Coinbase, right? So there was this exposure to Ethereum that had not been there before. But what happened with Ethereum was that Ethereum created, and I always describe it like this. This is not necessarily the best analogy, but it's my favorite, all right? And that is Bitcoin's the king, okay? You got this Bitcoin character sitting up top of this mountain like Zeus, crown on, holding his scepter, you know, just controlling the whole cryptoverse. And then you got the city in which Bitcoin rules, and that city is called Ethereum, okay? And inside that city, you have all these little shops and stores and businesses, and those are what Ethereum allows to exist, is all these little side projects, these businesses, these companies that you can walk in, say, hey, look, I want to do this, and then here's my Ethereum that I'm going to use in the city of Bitcoin, or in the land ruled by Bitcoin. And so, you know, I use that example for people who are just coming into the space, who want to know, what the heck does Ethereum do? What do you mean it's a platform? Platform for what? Platform like I need to go sing a song on a platform, or, you know, what are we talking about here? And I like to use that analogy for several different reasons, but ultimately it comes down to this. It explains, and to answer your question, which I've kind of rambled on about, which I know, it explains why people started becoming interested in Ethereum. And that was all these cities, or the city allowed all these businesses to pop up. And then all these customers with all this Ethereum were going in there and purchasing, you know, from these stores, in the hopes that, you know, whatever they're buying was going to actually increase in value, which it did. In 2016, 2017, you know, we saw this incredible run all the way up to, I think, like Ethereum got $1,300 or $1,400 at some point. And, you know, the idea that people were going to continue to make money kept bringing new people in. People were telling their friends, hey, man, I made $1,000 today. What, you made $1,000 on what? On this internet money, this magic internet money. Yeah. You know what's Bitcoin? Yeah. Well, what about what is this Ethereum? You know, and they're like, well, you can use Ethereum, you can buy into this coin, and then they're gonna launch, and then you're gonna make money on it because everybody else who didn't get in on the ICO is gonna now buy, right? And so you had this inflated idea of the value of Ethereum. But guess what? At the end of that, end of that cycle, now you had all these projects with all this Ethereum who had to pay their bills. Right? Yeah. Or the scammers were now just selling everything. But you had all this Ethereum initially that was bought and paid. And then once that Ethereum was released into these companies' hands, then you had this humongous wave of selling Ethereum. And so that's why we saw Ethereum go all the way back down to 90 something bucks, 80 something bucks at one point.
Yeah. No, and I don't think you're rambling, because I think you kind of have to you have to put it in terms like that, especially for like someone like me or some of the common folk out there, to kind of put it more in perspective. So I do appreciate that. And it feels like, at least now and for the time being, Bitcoin is like that brand recognition. It's like the Band-Aid or whatever, where it's like, oh, get me some Band-Aids, you know, get me some Bitcoin, but you mean Ripple or Ethereum or whatever it might be. Now, because like talking about blockchain, because I'm still like even trying to wrap my head around like what that entails. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ask you to explain it, but what do you think? Like, as far as a lot of people in the space, I mean, obviously, there's very intelligent, like, you know, technologically minded people in the space, but when it comes to the voices, what percentage of that are even people that are of that mind, or versus against just being more financial, where they couldn't necessarily explain the blockchain nodes and whatnot, but they just kind of understand financial sides of things and how that works?
Sure. I kind of fall in the middle of that myself, right? And I would say anybody who's still in this space that has some longevity we're past the point of the pretenders, right? I would say, even to the point, I would go as far as to say this: anybody who's left that has longevity in the space at least has a pretty good understanding about what they're doing. Okay. By default, you're not going to spend 2.5, 3, 4 years in this space on an active level and not learn. Like a pig would know what a blockchain is at this point, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, whether you're a oink oink pig in your mud hut and you're sloshing around eating your leftovers from the farmer, or whether you are Satoshi himself or Vitalik for that matter, you're gonna learn along the way. So there, I don't want to talk bad about anybody. There are obviously some bad characters, bad actors, but those people and I don't even want to put this on all because this could blanket traders, and that's not what I mean. But if you're only focusing on how much money did I make today, that's not somebody who I'm going to be attracted to just in general, because I like the ideology behind Bitcoin. That's what I do here, right? Is I like to conceptualize what this does for everything. And you said, you didn't want me to truly explain the blockchain, but let me simplify this. The basic principle behind a blockchain is the word trustless. When you hear that word, Jim, what do you think trustless? Like, what is that? Just like, not like, don't pander to like what my question is, but just as just regular Jim, what does regular Jim just think about when he hears the word trustless?
You just think about like your friends or something, or if you got or an email, you got a spam list, and you got like your safe senders or something like that.
So trustless in the blockchain space means something very different, and I would agree with that description. Yeah. If someone said that dude's trustless, or that's a trustless entity or whatever, I'd be like, oh, that's a negative. That's something that you wouldn't want to trust that person. But in this space, it actually means something a little bit different, and that is there is no such thing as trust, because it doesn't exist in this. It's trustless. Like, you don't have to trust it because it's permanently perfect. There is no ulterior. There's no other option. It's literally not something you even have to trust. It's guaranteed. Okay.
Oh, I was hearing trust list, like a list of things.
Oh, okay. Well, trustless. Trustless.
So pay no mind to my answer.
No problem. Yeah. So that's my Mississippi, bro.
I feel you now. You're saying trustless.
Yeah, trustless.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So less, LESS.
Yep.
So trustless, and I don't know if your answer would change tremendously, but I'll let you kind of, if you want to interject, possibly what your answer would be for trustless.
Oh yeah, that would be like a villain, someone you don't want to be around. Yeah, you know what I mean, like untrustworthy.
Untrustworthy. Great answer. And that's kind of what I was saying anyways, and that's kind of how I was interpreting what you had just said to me anyways. But it comes down to this. What does a trustless, the way I just explained it, what does that mean now to you when you hear the word, you don't even have to trust it? It's permanently perfect in this circumstance. How do you feel when you hear that?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, now it is breaking down to that there's it's not even a factor. It's not even something to think about, because it's already just kind of assumed, or not even assumed. It's just known.
It's something that doesn't even have to be addressed.
Yeah.
You do this action, it is guaranteed. Now, the problem with humans is that we don't know what that feels like. We've never had that option before, right? I mean, the closest thing we have to that is I'm hungry, I eat something, I'm less hungry, which isn't even always true, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes I'm still hungry, or that's so good, I'm going to keep eating. And I use that. I use all these examples for just to make things really simplified here. Is that when you have a ledger, okay? And for those of you who might be listening who don't even know what a ledger means, if you have a document, a piece of paper, right? You got a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, you wrote down all the people who owe you money, or all the people that you want included on your birthday party, or all the people that sent you mail this year. And you know for a fact that you didn't miss a single piece of lettering, like you didn't miss any mail, or you got every person that you wanted to go to your birthday party, you didn't miss a single soul. This document is now perfect. Boom. I know exactly what it is. Yep. Now imagine if you never had to do that. Now, obviously there has to be some input, but if you put everybody's name on there, they were guaranteed to get their invitations, or they were guaranteed to get their mail, and it is documented that their invitation left at this day, at this moment, and this time, and it was received by them at this day, at this moment, at this time, for every single person. Let's say that list is 2 million people long now, not just 7, right, or 12. How beneficial would that be maybe for voting, right? Yeah. Or how beneficial would that be for on a leisure side for gaming? And not to mention the most obvious use case is currency, but gaming, blockchain, and gaming, they go hand in hand. Look, politics, maybe not everything in politics should be absolutely on the blockchain, but everything that the government does might need to be on the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not everything, because I'm okay with the government being a little bit shady if they're doing things that protect this country, but where does that line drawn? Anyways, that's another topic.
Sure. Yeah.
And lastly, supply chain. Where did this fake Louis Vuitton come from, and how did I get sold to it in a store at Louis Vuitton store as a real Louis Vuitton? That happens. People don't want to admit it because they just bought a fucking fake Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. So, well, because I'm glad you're bringing it up this way, because this kind of ties into going back to your McAfee interview, because on the outside, and actually a lot of the talk, I mean, it's in the name, cryptocurrency. You get this feeling that it's encrypted, that it's like protected, that it's private. But he's opening up this idea that, like, even though he's a big supporter of Bitcoin reaching the moon financially,
Sure. Yep.
It opens up actually more privacy concerns. Now, is that like where the blockchain comes in? Or is that more particular to Bitcoin than other coins, or like what is he referring to there?
Man, he used a great example on that interview, and if you haven't watched it yet, folks, I would or listen to it. I would highly encourage you to, because he actually brought up some things that even myself and I think about this stuff all the time, right? I'm really proud of what I believe the blockchain is going to do for humanity. I'm a libertarian. I'm liberty-minded. I want people to be able to be who they want to be without government intervention. I believe in government. I just believe in very small government. So for that, and that's an ideology that both me and McAfee share. Now, what McAfee was bringing up was, if the problem with the blockchain and the transparency that the blockchain does provide is that you can transact this way, and you can make things really simple for yourself. But everybody in the world who knows your address now knows all your business, every bit of it. And although those addresses that Bitcoin has, they may not necessarily have a name on them, but if you're familiar with whose address is what, or you know exactly how you are, what's the word? If someone knows exactly where to find your Bitcoin, they can track every transaction you've ever made on the blockchain, because it's permanent and it's trustless. You don't have to worry. It's literally all on there. It sounds good for a government. It sounds bad for my personal interests, right?
Yeah.
So the point McAfee made was this: if you have a plumber come to the house to do a job, and that plumber comes, fixes your toilet, fixes your sink, right? He leaves. You send him some Bitcoin. He can now look up every transaction that address has ever used in its entirety. Now, I'll say this. As Bitcoin goes, I love it. I think it fits what Bitcoin's supposed to be long-term perfectly. And that is this: a store of value, gold, digital gold, right? I kind of want to know, if I was going to invest in gold, where did it come from? Was it from a Spanish ship from long ago, which is kind of cool? Or was it stolen from, Fort Knox or wherever? Probably not Fort Knox, but where did this gold come from? And to have the history traced forever is actually not bad if it's gold, because I'm buying that as a store value, because I personally believe, that that's going to maintain value, if not just maintain, grow in value. Now, I don't like it as a US dollar replacement, and I don't want it to be. And I've never thought of Bitcoin as that. And McAfee made this great point that, beyond everybody knowing exactly what and who you've been sending money to and how much it was and how much you got in your account right now, because now you're not only that, now you're potentially a target, right?
Yeah.
To be kidnapped or whatever. But, there are other alternatives, and those are the privacy coins, which that is I don't mind talking a little bit about them if that's something you want to get into in a bit, but that is a very, 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 very big hole that we can fall into.
Yeah. Okay. Because now you get into more, I guess, encrypted currencies. We don't have to get super into it, but it just kind of works differently on that end.
Untraceable. Just,
Okay.
the same way that I would say permanent and for sure, with trustless, it's guaranteed. It's also, you can guarantee privacy as well. Now, why wouldn't everybody use that? Well, it's a little bit, I don't want to say complicated, but it can look a little bit more sketchy. You know,
Yeah.
especially when someone who I'm a United States citizen, as you are. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong whatsoever. I try to abide by the laws of this land. I have a freedom of speech, a First Amendment, and I practice it quite regularly. And I also, have a right to privacy in my own home and things that I do, and I'm not doing anything wrong, right? So I don't mind necessarily having conversations about it, but I'm also not trying to become a target or try to look differently either. Doesn't mean I'll
Yeah.
never use privacy coins, but I just don't need them. Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't
Well,
mean I
'cause-
won't use them.
yeah, I mean, I could see how it could be scary if someone kind of
Actually,
has
it's none of your business.
yeah, or if someone kind of has an idea suddenly of like, oh, all right, so you got X amount of dollars in your or X amount of Bitcoin in your account. That's interesting. I'll keep some tabs on that. Now, you mentioned ledgers earlier, and I have like a basic understanding. It's basically like a hardware wallet. Like, oh, is it almost
Thumb
like
drive.
yeah? I was gonna say it's like a flash drive, basically.
Okay, so your coins actually never technically leave the network. Okay.
Yeah.
But your private keys ensure that you own those coins. So no matter what you do, as long as you have your private keys, you are able to keep them safe. Okay. So if you were to go to a bank and you needed a safety deposit box, right? And let's say that bank built a new bank and they moved all those safety deposit boxes to the new bank, but kept the same safety deposit box, right? You still have your key. You're the only one who has the key, right? If you lose that key, what happens?
Yeah. Now they have to crack it open, or
They got to crack it open.
Yeah.
You need some badass hacker or
Yeah.
some really awesome equipment. Okay. Same thing, same principle. You can move it around as long as you have the key and you're the only holder of that key. Your stuff's safe. It's safe. And that's essentially what a ledger is. It keeps all your keys safe.
Yeah, because I mean, like, because noobs like me, we use Coinbase. We just discovered a few weeks ago Coinbase Pro makes you feel like you're like now you're elite. Now you're elite.
Now you're moving. Now you're a trader.
Yeah, exactly. You feel like now you get some clout. You understand what's going on a little
Man.
bit.
Time to make some money.
But yeah, you see people, whether it be in like CCT, that's Joe's group. I mean, of course, Joe's host of Bitcoin Radio, also a crypto coin trader. When people talk about like, the exchanges like Coinbase or I don't know, people talk about Binance or I don't know, is Kraken one of them. And there's all kinds of different things. Like, I don't think a lot of noobs out there understand that, I guess it's like when your money's in the bank. Like your money's in the bank, yeah, it's technically in the bank, but it's not really. Like when you have your money on an exchange, it's kind of technically not, or your cryptocurrency, it's kind of technically not your thing, right? Unless you get it on like a ledger or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just Ledger. There's several different ways that you can do it. Ledger is the same thing as an app wallet that has the same things. Okay, Coinbase. And look, first off, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Coinbase. Nobody has done more in the United States and the United Kingdom for crypto and Bitcoin than Coinbase. They created an entry and exit point that was very simple, familiar, and easy to use for the average everyday person. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says or how much their fees are. They have made it super easy on me and my entire family and anybody else I've ever known to start learning about Bitcoin and crypto and buy some. It's familiar. It's like PayPal. It's like, logging into your bank to an extent. Obviously, it's different. And there are some things that you might be unfamiliar with when you get there. But overall, the app is beautiful. It's seamless. It works. It's absolutely the place that I don't care who you are, what you say, or what you're coming to me with or want to complain about. Coinbase absolutely provides that entry and exit point that makes it very easy for anybody using it for the first time. That being said, it is not a place to go trade coins. The fees are high.
Yeah,
It will take a lot of ups and downs for you to be able to buy and sell and to actually make some money. And it would be very immature or very amateur, maybe should I say, of you to think of it as something more than that. It's an entry and exit point, and that's all I've ever viewed it as, right? Now, they also provide some insurance. I think it's like 250,000, whatever the minimum is. It's like a bank, right?
Yeah.
If you have your coins in there and for some reason something happens that's federally insured, that's for 250,000. Well, guess what? That's familiar for people as well. And they feel comfortable with that because that's what their banks tell them, right? Now, that doesn't actually mean that if you got hacked that you're insured, that your stuff's not gonna not be. I mean, if someone logs into your account, takes your Bitcoin, Coinbase can be like, bro, that has nothing to do with me. That's your own fault. You know, you better keep your stuff put back together. They're not going to replace your stuff. What they're saying is, if the bank went down and burned to the ground, that the money that was in that bank is insured to this amount. It has nothing to do with your Bitcoin, and your Bitcoin is not backed by the bank either. Your Bitcoin is backed by the price of the market and whether or not you didn't give somebody else your password, right? So I think it's very important that people remember those things. I don't want to speak as if I'm an expert in that subject, but where it comes to like this other wallets, and you know, I have a Bread wallet, BRD wallet. It actually used to be called Bread. It's called BRD wallet now, and BRD is very simple and very easy and very familiar to use too. And they've got a cool concept. So I've used Bread for some time since Alex, although he's no longer with the company, nothing negative or anything. He's gone off to do other things. He introduced me to BRD a long time ago, and that's what I use as a very easy app to use.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I think that's I think that's a good point, because I'm at least of the understanding just from reading around. Like, I do get that I'm using like training wheels or whatever. And then when I don't want to be lazy and want to really like get down to it, I'll do some research and see what the best option is to kind of jump off. But I think everything you said is true, because as someone that, you know, only saw a Bitcoin through crime and through different clickbait articles when prices were rising, you look at something like Coinbase and like, oh, okay, yeah, this is easy. Okay, I understand. But then when you try to cash out, you're like, wait a minute, what? You're charging me this much? Because the main idea, even from the diehards out there, even from the people that would like scoff at using it, they have to still be of the mind of like, well, we still need more people. We need for, especially if the idea is whether it be mass adoption or, because I mean, obviously the very obvious parallel is stocks. And not that I really know anything about the stock market, but obviously they use similar terms. They kind of seems like it. A lot of the whales or the bulls or the bears, they all act the same. And we kind of, the idea would be you'd have to like get away from that for it to be more of a like legit currency, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and what you just said is very common. I mean, I hear that all the time. And this is where there's two different perspectives. Like, I come from a holder and believer in Bitcoin perspective, right? And that's a trader's perspective, right? That is the person who's coming in. I want to day trade. I want to make some money. I'm gonna get in, get out. You know, have some fun with it. Maybe it's a long shot, but you know, people who just don't rationalize the blockchain and Bitcoin for what it can be long term. Now, I do both. Honestly, I don't want to pretend like I sit here and I do not dabble on each side as a holder or as a trader. But what I do is I keep my perspective of what I believe Bitcoin's going to do long term, and I'm not going to move that stash. I'm going to keep that. You know, that's my security blanket. That's the treasure chest hidden, like, you know, 25 steps north, you know, 3 steps to the west underneath the log. That's where you want to find I'm out here in the woods, you see, right? Yeah. With the woman and the kids and the dog and me. Yeah. And, you know, I'm down here in Mississippi, bro. You want to come find my Bitcoin, you're going to have to search, you know, and I mean, the swamps, bro. Right. Yeah. But, you know, that's, I say that kind of as a joke, obviously, but not really. If you want to come find my Bitcoin, it's not going to be my house. I'm smarter than that. But the stock market comparison is a trader's perspective. I'm a holder. Okay. I trade. I use this terminology. I trade. I practice the same concepts and I've learned from the stock market. Most people coming into the Bitcoin era or the Bitcoin world were in a stock market era at some point that have some perspective of what the stocks did, or penny stocks or whatever it might be, to go trade. Oh, it's going to go up from here. The traders shape the day-to-day markets. Okay. They also can induce a sell-off, or they can induce a buy-up, right? They can induce a bull market. But ultimately it comes down to this: supply and demand. Do people believe in Bitcoin? Do people believe in Apple? What makes a stock go all the way down? Bad news. What does that have to do with the trader?
Not just getting that fear, I guess, right?
Well, so sure. I mean, and there's a lot of manipulation. But honestly speaking, you know, the news constitutes the base price. what is the base price of Bitcoin? Well, what is the price that it'll go down to until everybody thinks it's a steal, a deal? The traders and the holders, they work together. Holders keep it rare. The traders make money off of everybody getting in and out. They don't, and most holders, like, do you care if you bought it at $6,000 or $6,007 at this point? No. But to the trader, every dollar matters. Every cent matters. They want to get it as low as they can, or they want to sell it as high as they can and buy back low, right? And I'm not even going to get into margin, shorting and longing, et cetera. But there's a lot of different perspectives. I just, it's really important for anybody walking in, especially if you're comparing it to stocks. That's a different perspective than I hold. I'm holding it because I think Bitcoin's going to be $100,000 at some point soon.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I guess it's not that different from currency in general, because when people with enough money do the similar thing with currencies, and whether it be, when the dollar's low, they want to buy a dollar and they'll put it into something else because they see that's on the come up. I mean, sure. I'm not that wealthy of a person to have a lot of knowledge on that. So I'll just throw that out there. I mean, when I was going to Tokyo, I've been to Tokyo, though, and that was great because I'm buying all this yen. And I'm like, I got thousands.
Rich, bro.
And I'm like, I'm sitting here. I mean, when I was in Tokyo, I was still even confused when it's like $10 and I'm giving them like, basically $100, but I'm thinking it's $10.
Yes.
So, that's where I'm coming from sometimes. But then when I went to London, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah. Now my money ain't worth shit. So yeah, same idea, I suppose. And yeah, I get I see the holders or the hodls, whether it be in CCT or on
hodlers.
Reddit, stuff like that. Yeah, hodlers. And I like that. I like that point of view. Because that kind of shows people are in it for the long haul. They believe in the potential and I guess the freedom that it could bring. But it's got to be tough because it's from the outside, it just completely looks like stocks. And that's why you see people with their charts and you see like the hourly or the daily or what have you. And I'm sure this has been touched on. I think you've even touched on this in Bitcoin Radio. Is there a lot of fear? Because I know a lot of people think we're on the road to 100,000, or depending on who you talk to, we're on the road to 1 million. There must be a lot of fear that there are these other people that have been waiting since 2017, 2018 to just dump because they feel like they lost a lot of money when it was at the all-time high. Now, there's got to be this idea that once it hits the previous all-time high, a lot of people are going to dump their shit, or do you think they've come around in this time where they believe in it now?
Man, this is one of those human psychology questions. All right.
Yeah.
And look, I always tell people I'm a really good example of this because I'm a really passionate person. I'm very susceptible to FOMO. Right. I will buy at the peak at times, even to this day. Like I'll just be like, whatever, if I'm buying and it goes back down, I'll just hold it because I believe in this, but I don't want to miss the train. Right. So this is what happens though. And I'm just going to shape this for you. All right, Jim, it's 2017 flashback. All right.
Yeah.
Early December, you're at $16,000. Bitcoin's heading which you don't know this yet, but Bitcoin's going to head to $19,600. But you bought a whole Bitcoin for 16 grand. You celebrated Christmas, had a good time. You got your Bitcoins going up still, $18,000. And, you wake up in January after your hangover from January 1st, and all of a sudden you start seeing Bitcoin go down. And you're like, oh, man, well, it's okay. I'm up $3,000. I'm up $2,000. No big deal. Before you know it, it's February, and you're down $2,000, and we're back down to 13, 14, and now we're down at 12, and it's March, and before you know it, we're 10,000, and you're down $6,000 off your one Bitcoin purchase. But you committed to this. Oh man, whatever. Maybe I'll try to buy some more. I believe in this, or I'm not going to put any more, but whatever. Okay. But now it's January 2019, almost a year and a half later, not quite a year and a half, but a year later, excuse me. And it's $3,200. And you haven't sold yet. Have you sold? No, you haven't sold. Yeah. I mean, it's not worth it to sell now, right?
Of course not. No way.
Hopefully you bought a little bit just to average down. But yeah, but of course you didn't, Jim, because you're just like everybody else, and they didn't, But now Bitcoin's going back up, and now it's March, April, May, June, and we're back at $8,000-$9,000. And before you know it, we hit 13, 14. All right, so we've gone back down. We're around $10,000 today. I don't know exactly where we're at. I haven't even looked at the charts today. But at this point, if you have not sold, And then you watch this trek back up, and everybody starts talking about $36,000, $42,000 potential Bitcoin. And we actually get back to where you're even. Are you going to sell?
No. Yeah. Now, especially if you laid it out and I'm putting myself in that mindset, it's like, well, I've been in it this long and it feels like things are on the come up. Let's ride this out. Let's ride this bitch.
And what is that in human instinct? What is that? That's FOMO. That's saying, this is why I bought it the first time. I had to wait a little bit longer to get there. But now everybody thinks it's going to go to 36,000, which I also agree with that. I think I've kind of pegged if we come back to all-time high and pass it and can sustain some growth over the all-time high, I say 36,000 is very much in reach. That is not a prediction. That is just how I look at the charts and how I look at sentiment right now and say that's what people believe is going to happen. So because of that, people are going to buy and hold. People are going to start buying right now, and they're going to sell, and they're going to make 3x, 300%, because they're going to be smart and they're going to hold on to it to that point. And then we're going to struggle at certain roadmap benchmarks that $20,000 across that's going to be difficult. You know why? Because humans value that 20000 as this OCD mark where it's kind of difficult to pass. And people are like, I'm happy at 20,000. So we're going to touch it. We're going to come back down, or we're going to just bust right past it like we did 10,000. I remember when the first time we hit $10,000, Jim, you know what happened? I was like, oh, I'm selling right now at like 9,800. Like, I was riding along from like $6,600, right? We hit 9,800. I could tell we're going to 10,000. I'm like, oh man, it's going to hit 10,000 and it's just going to collapse. I better get out. And before you know it, I was buying back in at $11,000.
Yeah,
because we didn't stop.
And you know what my favorite is, just from like an outsider's perspective, like reading CCT and stuff like that, because everyone's got their charts and they're interesting to look at. You could tell that some people put like a lot of work in it. Like shout outs to Tim Pace. I like that interview we had, and he put some good stuff out there. And then other randos kind of put some stuff up. Sometimes it's thrown together, but you'll always see the commenters that are like, nah, have fun, it's going to 3.
Yep.
But I feel like there's a few like places that person comes from. It's either just a straight troll, which is fine, those are fun, or it's those people that are hoping because they already sold at 8 or something and they're like, fuck, it's going down, and they feel like they can maybe put that energy out there and like scare people and hope it'll go down so they can buy back in because they know it's going back up.
Yeah. No, what you just said is essentially true, but you're missing a really key component, and that's the day trader. Okay. The person who and this is obviously, I don't know how much you know. I know that it's minimal in the investing world, as you admitted earlier, but do you know what shorting is?
I have like a basic understanding where like you might even just buy at, say it's at 9,000, you buy at 9,000, then like sell when it gets to like 95 and then hope it goes down and buy again, like with the like extra money or something. Is that even
sort of
what it is?
So it's like this. Let's just say, and we're just going to use even numbers here because it's simple, but let's just say at $10,000, you don't think it's going to keep going up. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you do is you have 0 Bitcoin. All you have is cash.
Okay.
But you're going to bet that it's going to go down. So what you're going to do is you're going to take what you're considering the bank's Bitcoin. You're going to actually borrow Bitcoin from that bank and you're going to sell it back to somebody else. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what you're going to do and then is hope that it goes down. And then all you got to do is return how much Bitcoin you borrowed. So if you borrowed 1 Bitcoin, right, all you owe the bank is 1 Bitcoin. All right. Yep. But you borrowed that 1 Bitcoin from the bank, but then you sold it to the regular people or whoever it was that bought it from you. And then after it goes back down to $9,000, you then buy that 1 Bitcoin back. So now you got that Bitcoin at $9,000, but the bank doesn't care. They just want their 1 Bitcoin back.
Yeah.
Right.
And you just pocket the difference.
$1,000.
Okay.
You just made $1,000. Right. So that's what shorting is. You borrow the Bitcoin. You don't have to have any. You borrow that Bitcoin. You then sell it to the open market. And then, but here's the thing is if it goes up, now you owe the difference. So if it goes to 11,000 and you bought it at 10, now you're down an extra $1,000, right?
Yeah.
It's the risk you take. Now, I asked that question I explained that because you have that day trader who's in the forum saying, "Oh no, it's going down to $9,200 today. Like short it now," because he's trying to pile people on. So you just turn that potential long buyer, person who thinks it's going up, into maybe I'm going to short it today, or I'm going to sell my Bitcoin and help the price, have have suppressive prices, where you're selling into that market, which is one less person that's going to help the market go up, and you're in essence. What you're doing is you're trying to manipulate the market and this is anybody who ever talks about the market, period. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody.
Yeah.
Some people do just give their opinions. Sure. Like, I can look at the chart. It doesn't look like I would buy right now. Okay. That's a fair assessment, but when you say it's going to go down to 9,200, there's probably some facts behind that. Typically the people who give prices, the internet's forever, right? So you're accountable. I mean, I go back to people's predictions all the time, including my own, and just to see where we stand compared to what I was thinking back then. But, there's a reason why people say these things,
Yeah, well, no, that's great because it's like a great parallel for just like his life in general. It's like, Joe, who do you trust, man? Who can you trust out there? Some people come to you smiling in your face and they tell you it's going to go down to 5,000 and you better sell right away. But are they right? Or are they just trying to get that fear in you because they're trying to make something for themselves? Well, I mean, I don't know how much longer you want to go, but maybe I hit you with my own version of a quick fire here.
Let's go. Do it, bro. Don't be scared.
And I don't think you're going to, you know what? And before I even ask this question, I don't think you're going to answer it because
go ahead.
Here's my thing with Joe Blackburn. Joe Blackburn gets pretty political sometimes. I mean, not political, but I mean like a politician.
Ideological.
You rightfully, you want to be, you got that Southern hospitality, you're a polite man and that's great. But Joe Blackburn, who are you beefing with right now? Who out there who do you got beef with?
The devil.
Ooh, the devil.
I mean, bro, here's the thing is that I do not hold grudges.
Yeah.
There are people that I have gone back and forth with. But the thing is the haters make you famous.
True.
Right? I mean, look, Donald Trump got elected because CNN wouldn't stop talking about him. Right? Yeah. I mean, I stand by that. I don't care who you are, what you say. CNN made everybody either love or hate Donald Trump. Had they just never even talked about Donald Trump, I swear to God, he wouldn't have even been the last three, So that's the thing. If someone's beefing with me, I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't think I did anything wrong though. Like, I'm sorry, bro, but no. But,
well, no, I think that's totally right because if you look at something like Twitter, for example, and if you see someone's name trending, a lot of times it's just people either saying like, why is this guy trending? Why is so-and-so trending? Why is so trending? Not realizing that they're making that person trend. Like, and they probably hate them. They're like, oh, I hate this person. Why are they trending? It's like, well, why are you contributing? So,
and then you get on and then you're like, oh yeah, this person sucks, and you just contribute to the madness.
Exactly. Now you don't have to answer this one, but do you think anyone's beefing with you?
I hope so.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
That would be cool. Me and John McAfee are beefing.
Yeah.
Can I start some beef with Mac? I mean, I would inherently just lose that. Like, there's no question. It's not something I can win, but I would love to have some beef with something like that. Me and Donald Trump are beefing.
Yeah, that's who you want to call out because
I called him out actually.
Yeah, that's good though because then you'll get like a bunch of people that hate him just on your side immediately. They don't even care anything else about you, just that you don't like Trump.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm not like talking bad about Trump there. I neither love or hate Donald Trump. I'm not like your typical American who has just one set opinion, just as a preface, but or as a post disclaimer. Well, anyways, but hold on. So my answer to that is, first off, I did call out Donald Trump recently. I said, next time you talk bad about Bitcoin, can you please tag me?
Yeah, that's a good call. Yep. Now, Joe Blackburn,
respond.
Have you ever had your heart broken?
Of course not. Heart of stone, bro. I'm married with a kid, dude. Things are perfect all the time.
Not even not in like junior high, like
of course, man. Yeah, of course. Now, obviously, I was just being badass. Yeah, dude. We've all had something like that, But I'll tell you, my biggest heartbreak has come from the University of Florida Gators football team, which when Steve Spurrier left the Gators to go to the NFL to be the head coach, my heart was genuinely and real, like no joke, I was depressed. I didn't come out of my room. Keep in mind, I was like 15 at the time, but I was really disappointed. I remember exactly where I was when he said it. And then Urban Meyer did it to me afterwards. So say what you want. Those were my biggest heartbreaks.
Well, I love. You could tell that that's real talk because you like remember the time and place. You remember where you were. It's one of those, do you remember where you were when Kennedy was shot type questions.
As a Gator fan, exactly right. And I'll tell you this too, to just kind of add on to that, is that when Urban Meyer actually retired for the first time, my ex-girlfriend, who at the time was a pretty recent ex-girlfriend, made sure that she was the very first person to let me know that happened because she knew how much it meant to me.
That's sweet. The one that got away.
No, not that. Clearly, it was. Yes, I know. Just make sure my wife
I'm just
wasn't.
playing.
This, so.
I've met Joe's family. He has a wonderful family. He has a lovable wife, sweet as a button. Great home. Now that I say that, forgive this question. This is I got a couple blue questions to ask you. Are you tired of dicks, pussies, and assholes?
A couple of them.
All the above?
A couple of them. I mean, it is what it is, grown ass man.
And the last one. This is what I ask these questions to anyone I have on my
These
show.
are hard questions, by the way.
Yeah.
Like you are not going easy on me.
I have a few other ones I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's this other one. When it comes to porno, now if you ever did partake, whether it be pre-marriage, whatever, do you prefer a storyline or gonzo where it's just scene?
That's a really interesting question. I'll have to answer this I'm an amateur podcaster, so
yeah.
the amateur aspect would probably be what did it for me best.
I appreciate you even attempting to answer my dumb questions.
They were dumb. I think they're very relevant to everybody who listens to this show one way or the next.
I guess I think that about does it. Unless is there anything you think we might have missed on that we should get into?
No, you just killed it, Jimbo. And I'll tell you this too. Hopefully, there will be many instances of our tag team combo on this stuff. I didn't really get to ask you a lot of questions this time, but I'm sure we'll kind of go back and forth, and we'll have more than one opportunity.
Absolutely. No, this has been great. This is a blast. I hope you had a lot of fun as well, Joe. Thank you so much for partaking some wisdom on me. Especially when it comes to the cryptoverse, I feel like your passion and your knowledge, it's infectious. It's easy to pick up. I think that's why you're perfect to host a show like Bitcoin Radio. And thank you so much.
Well, Jim, that goes both ways. You did a phenomenal job. I hope I did not bore you too much. And until next time, I am so grateful, and we'll look forward to when we do this again. All right, Bitcoin Radio, you heard it. You heard it from the man himself, not me this time, but Jim Scampoli. Jim, thank you so much today for coming on and having some fun. I know you enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's very knowledgeable, and thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, look, Bitcoin Radio, listen, you know what time it is, right? It is time for you to hear how the cryptoverse belongs to all of us. And what that means is it's our responsibility to take care of it. Don't you dare falter on those responsibilities. We got to do our best. We are the perception of the public. So every time you get a chance to learn, to listen, to get better at explaining these things, do it. And hopefully I was a decent example. And for all of you haters out there, I like you too. All right. Until next time, Bitcoin Radio, we'll see you soon. Thanks again, Jim, for the awesome time. It was amazing. And we will be back at you in a couple days. Wait till you see what's next.